Good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. It's been a couple of weeks since the PIL against Freebies announced before elections or during election campaigning took the country by storm. Since then, this debate has been raging on. What is welfare and what is a freebie or a dole? What is justified and what is an attempt to buy votes? The real issue is also this: exactly who will bell the cat? The Election Commission seems reluctant. The courts may not have full powers in this regard, and political parties can't see eye to eye. In this situation, does an all-party panel help? Can political parties sit together, come to some sort of a consensus? Can a panel mandated by the Supreme Court with various other representatives help? Who should lead such a panel? A retired judge or a constitutional body or the central government? We will put those questions to our guests in a bit, because all of these are the biggest questions. Even if there seems to be some consensus that is emerging, that something needs to be done. But first, here is what happened in court today. Let me break down what the CJI has said again. He's gone on to say that things like freebies can destroy the economy. There needs to be a debate on freebies. Those in opposition today, interestingly, the CJI said, can come to power tomorrow and will have to manage the freebies load. Why doesn't the centre call an all-party meet is a question that the CJI asked, and the court that has been batting for a panel also asked the centre that why don't you form a committee to study the freebies impact. Let me also take you through the centre's stand on freebies. Remember, they have gone to court and said that these freebies are not good. They are not part of the manifestos that are announced, and these are only really reflected in rallies and their speeches. This freebie culture has been elevated to an art, and elections are today only fought on this. If freebies were considered welfare, this will lead to an economic disaster, is the stand of the central government. Remember, the SG representing the centre had also said that they too propose a committee with various members, lots of them, those supporting freebies, those opposing freebies, citizen representative groups, etc., to come together and be part of this panel. But where do other political parties stand? I'm just pointing out to some of the more prominent ones, although others have also implemented themselves in this case. So there's the Aam Aadmi Party, of course. That was the first one to raise, their hand up and say that this is not done. So they are opposing the formulation of this expert body and its mandate on freebies. Basically, they're saying that even if this panel was to be formulated, how can it control what leaders announce in an election rally? That's not allowed, according to them. DMK is saying that welfare schemes for the marginalized cannot be termed as freebies, and the Congress has also taken a similar stance by a plea in this case, saying that policies for marginalized classes cannot be termed as freebies. But this is really at the heart of the debate. Are all freebies that are being announced in election rallies today really for the marginalized? Are they for everybody concerned? So the big debate that's coming up today, can all parties come together? Can there be a consensus on this freebies debate? Let's go across to the guests who are joining us. I'm joined by Sarvanan, who's part of the DMK. Kishore Subramaniam is a financial expert, and Reena Gupta is from the Aam Aadmi Party. Sarvanan, why don't I begin with you? The court was yesterday not too happy with a statement that was made by the DMK government minister as well. You believe the court shouldn't get into it, but the court is wanting to act as a mediator. The court is saying call an all-party meet, for example. Form a panel with everybody together. You will get a representation as a state government too. Do you object to that, or are you willing to be part of that panel?
See, I don't know. This freebie debate has already long been settled by the Supreme Court. 2013 judgment of the Supreme Court has been very, very categorical, and it states that announcing a scheme or promising the voters is not violative of any of the prevailing law in the country. When that is the situation, the Prime Minister goes on record and says, suddenly becomes enlightened. He wants to build the economy, and he gets good gyan and says, no, there should not be any freebies. He is totally forgetting that every party, every state ruled by the BJP, carried away by the impact of it is on the economy and on the people. Taking the example of the state of Tamil Nadu, is announcing these schemes. These schemes that are now announced by Uttar Pradesh, Goa, Manipur, Haryana, all these have been announced, implemented in the state of Tamil Nadu
But
from
Sarvanand,
the 1960s.
Sarvanand, here's the thing. A government can announce a scheme, of course, when it comes to power. That's the job of the government. And it will budget for it. It will announce, sometimes it announces it before it budgets, but it will eventually have to budget for it. The question here is not that. The question is what is said and promised before coming to power.
Yeah. See, that is what I'm saying. DMK is a party. I can speak for the DMK and what's happening in the state of Tamil Nadu. We have always delivered what we have promised. We said we will give a 1 kg rice for 1 rupee in 2006. We implemented that. We said we'll give free color televisions in 2006. We did that. We said we'll give free gas stoves. We gave that.
The question is also not whether you're delivering or not. The question is what is the impact on the state exchequer because of all of these deliveries? How is color TV set, especially this tradition in South India and especially in Tamil Nadu, this dole culture which has been debated for long. How is a color TV a part of your welfare scheme?
Absolutely. That's a very, very good question. And thanks for the opportunity to explain how it is transformed the lives of the women folk. In 2006, probably now color television is not a much touted thing, but back in 2006, it was an object of caste pride, especially in villages. Only the people who belonging to the upper caste would have a color television, who is well off will have a color television. Everybody else will have to go to that guy's house and pay some money. And it was an object which was used to ridicule the others. We wanted to do away with that. Not only that, all the illiterate people who was not able to read and write, they came to know of what is happening around the world through the infotainment that is streamed, beamed.
Why not educate the illiterate instead of giving them TV sets?
How can we educate a 60-year-old man or a 75-year-old woman?
Why not?
No, that is not possible.
There are night schools arranged for adults all the time. You can come up with a better policy.
Yes. Easiest way to make them aware of what is happening around the world is through giving them this information through televisions. It has an Oxford study has found that this has transformed the lives of the people who have received it, and it is also found out that the crime rate has come down. It has made women's livelihood little more easier.
How has it made women's livelihood easier? Can you explain that one?
Yes. Because the men folk who are all watching television, the domestic violence against women has come down. That apart, women were able to find out what are all the opportunities that are available. So many welfare announcements, so many.
So you are saying that the state government is able to reach the last man or woman in the row and the mile through TV. Otherwise, you don't have capacity enough to touch their lives.
Yes,
seriously?
You're right.
You're seriously accepting that? That you can touch the lives and better the lives of your people in the state only through a color television. Otherwise, you can't better their lives?
In 2006, we are in 2022. So 2006 is entirely different from 2022.
So, abhi kya denge aap? What will you give in 2022?
2022.
Tablet.
See, 2022, we are having a different schemes. We have announced free bus rides for women.
Why?
And this, do you think this is not going to impact the lives of the women?
It also impacts the financial structure of the state. If you can justify it financially, great enough.
I'll justify that.
One second. The larger debate here, Sarvanan, is that welfare is targeted. Welfare is targeted to the person who really, really needs it and needs the state support. It is not supposed to be everyone. That's the central issue between welfare and Freebie. One second, you've had your turn. Others are also joining us. Shazia Ilmi of the BJP, and I'm joined by Vijay Sardana, who's an advocate in the Supreme Court. He's also wanting he has also filed a plea in regards to this entire matter ongoing in the court. Vijay Sardana, the court is suggesting that a panel might be the best way forward. Do you really think that we can bring everybody together to come to some sort of a consensus on what is welfare, what is freebie, at least some consensus that certain types of freebies or doles being announced during election rallies can be curbed? What the government chooses to do after it comes to power, I don't think the courts or the election commission have the right to restrict. But before coming to power in election rallies, can it be restricted?
First of all, good evening to all of you. See, this is an extremely important debate. Now, biggest issue in the whole debate is how you want to define freebies. And everyone will say that, for me, this, like just now our friend was mentioning that in Tamil Nadu, TV is not freebie. So like this, it is impossible to do it. My suggestion to Honorable Court and through you to the country and to all political parties, there has to be a mandatory financial statement as part of the election manifesto. It means whatever you are promising, you must mention that what you are promising, out of your total population, how many will be beneficiary, what is the amount you want to allocate, and what is the source of funding. Let the electorate should know, they should make an informed choice whether so much money for TV or for VCR or for scooty or mobile or whatever, are they willing to fund? Because ultimately funding will come from either taxpayers or market borrowing. Let me give you an example of Tamil Nadu. Just now our friend was talking about Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
Look at the RBI statement finances of the budgets of all the states. 2021-22. Andhra Pradesh, out of 31 states in the country, has the highest borrowing of 87,300 and the highest gross fiscal deficit of 1,624 crores. Now, point here comes up is, ultimately, who has to bear this cost? Tomorrow, suppose a new government will come, this liability will be transferred to them. And the market borrowing, which is of 87,000 crore, state public has to pay back because they have to collect the taxes and pay back to the banks. Because this is a market borrowing, it is a loan. So now issue comes up is whether population of Tamil Nadu is willing to pay additional 1 lakh crore to take care of these overheads which are created because of election promises by the political party who is in power. So issue is that my request to Honorable Supreme Court and to the country and to all the political parties of India, there must be a mandatory financial statement in every election manifesto that what is the cost of the promises they are making. Let them make some guesstimates.
Okay.
All rates are available in the market. And what is the source of funding? Whether it is going to be from increasing taxes, increasing borrowing, or they will pass on to the next government or to the next year, and it is a perpetual liability on the people of the state.
Which is why it is also being said that freebies today are actually a liability for your next generation. Somebody has to pay for something. There are no free lunches and frankly no free color TV sets, Mr. Saravanan. I'll give you 30 seconds, Saravanan, before I have to, because I have to go across to our other guests as well.
This debate is already settled. This is not something new. In 2013 itself, I am telling you, the Supreme Court has visited all these things and said what we have to do. My friend is speaking as though this is the most pressing issue which is concerned of the country now. It is not so.
You answer who will pay 1 lakh crore. Just
sir,
answer
I will
this.
come, sir. I will come.
Who will pay 1 lakh crore? Just answer
I will
this.
answer that. I will answer that. Tamil Nadu is paying 1 rupee to the union government, and it is getting back only 35 paise. Will the union government fund it? Will the union government give us it?
Are you saying,
just
my
a
friend?
moment, just a moment. Allow me to speak, sir. Allow me to speak.
Yeah, please.
Allow
carry
me
on,
to speak.
carry on.
Yeah. So we know how to fund all these things, and this is not as though these borrowings can go unlimited. We have certain principles. We have Article 283. We have the Consolidated Fund of India. So there are certain guidelines, certain principles. If we are going to borrow more than 3%, the union government will not allow us to borrow. So it is not going to, it's not as though we are just taking away money and giving it just for the sake of winning elections. That is not how
but
that is happening
Saravanan,
in the
you
state
didn't
of Tamil
answer
Nadu.
his fundamental question.
Yes,
it is putting an extra burden on the exchequer. And
No.
why do you need to give it to everybody? When you give it to everybody in the state, or for example, all women, is that not akin to buying? I think Mr.
Yes.
Sardana,
Yes,
in your,
I'll come
once
to
again,
that.
Mr.
I'll come
Saravanan,
to
please
that. I'll come
allow
to-
some
I'll
others
come
to
to
come
that.
in.
Just
I'll
answer-
come
no,
back
no,
to you.
allow me
I'll
answer
come
this
back to
question.
you.
You asked a question.
Sir,
You
I'll
just
come back
answer
to
this
you.
alone.
You've had a
I'll
lot of
just
time.
answer this
Please
alone.
cede stage
I'll
now.
just answer this alone. You said you have told me that it is giving free bus rides to every woman. You said it should be targeted.
Yeah.
When a scheme is announced first, there should not be any entry barriers. If there are going to be any entry barriers at the inception, the scheme will not go smooth.
That's
this
not
is
true.
an administrative. That is the truth.
That
It
is not
an
true.
That is the truth. You don't know because you're not in the
Most
administration.
schemes
We
are
have
done
been in
targeted
no,
only.
no, no,
They're
no. Let
not
me
done
see
for
this.
everybody.
Let me complete that.
There's a difference between running a pilot scheme and then rolling out a scheme.
You're not an expert.
Are you?
We know administration. We are in administration.
Are you in administration?
Yes.
Are you
we
in
know
government?
How to
Are you in
superbly
government?
implement a scheme. We know how to smoothly
No,
implement a scheme.
Mr. Saravanan, don't act
Yes.
clever with me.
Yes.
You are also not the finance minister of Tamil Nadu.
I am not saying I'm representing my party.
Yeah, you're representing your party. You are also not in administration. Running a party is a different kind of administration, sir. It's not state administration.
Our party has the expertise because from 1965, we have been in the habit of bringing welfare measures and we know how to implement it, whether it should be targeted or it should be universal because
Then don't call it a welfare scheme. Welfare schemes are targeted. Anyways, Reena Gupta, let me go across to Reena Gupta, please. Mr. Sadana, if I'm not wrong, in your plea you have also mentioned that the per capita income in Delhi is 4 lakhs. Then what is the logic of giving free bus rides? Am I correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Reena Gupta, respond to that. That is the question. This whole idea that all of these facilities can be made free is a nice utopian idea. And maybe it works in some developed countries. But what is the need of making it for everybody and why not come together to at least come to some consensus? That's what I'm discussing today. If there is a tomorrow an all-party meet, if there is tomorrow a panel, will you participate and cooperate?
So this is a very interesting debate, Shivani. 75 years since India's independence and a large part of our country still does not have access to quality education and quality health. Who is to be blamed? The two political parties who've been ruling the country. So now at this point of time, as a country, we need to decide where do we spend our money? Do we spend our money on welfare measures so that we ensure that each citizen of this country has access to good education and good health care? Or do we spend our money in giving freebies to the corporate, which this government has been doing? 10 lakh crores have been written off. 5 lakh crores has been the corporate revenue loss because of change in taxation policy. So these are the real freebies facing this country. Unless each one of us, Shivani, it's very easy for us to sit in air-conditioned rooms and say, free bus ki kya zarurat hai? Why don't you go out and talk to the women who use this free bus services? I've talked to many of those women.
How many new buses have been added in Delhi, Reena?
6,000 new buses. Shivani, don't change tracks. Let's
This is exactly the debate.
No,
why don't you add the number of buses in Delhi to augment the public infrastructure? Then people wouldn't need free rides.
No, it doesn't. The two things are very different. The people of Delhi who cannot afford a bus ride need free bus rides.
You give it to them. You target it and give it to them. Why all women?
So, can I explain, Shivani? So, you're interrupting me. You did not interrupt Mr. Sadana at all. He spoke a monologue for 10 minutes. So, I'll tell you, I am an expert on I'm an economist. I have worked extensively on the subsidy issue and targeting of subsidy. Any economist, be it Amartya Sen or Abhijit Banerjee, any economist will tell you that all of these services need to be universal. Otherwise, you spend more money in targeting than the money which actually reaches the last mile person. And this is exactly what was happening when, we had this, this issue of BPL card, this card, that card. The poor were actually left out. So
can I come in?
Can I complete first?
No, 1 second. On your targeted point of universal, that may have been true at a certain time. We are living in 2022. Today, targeting is much, much simpler. It is not the same that the government sends 1 rupee and only 15 paisa reaches. Today, 1 rupee can reach the targeted person, ma'am.
So first, you have to make sure that the service, the subsidy scheme, whatever you want to call it, is universal. Once people have benefited and the section which does not need, you can bring in these riders. But at the start, it has to be universal. Point number two, let's talk about the fiscal deficit of the so-called Bharatiya Janata Party ruled states. Your Gujarat model is being sold everywhere. Gujarat, the CAG has said that Gujarat is going to fall into a debt trap. If Gujarat was being managed so well, if they were not giving freebies, if they were managing the fiscal deficit so well, then why is Gujarat on the verge of a dead state? Because, in Gujarat, they spent 2,000 crores in buying an airplane for the chief minister. That is what I call freebie.
Sure enough, nobody is supporting that. But that one is not a justification for other. The issue still maintains if the governments are being able to fund what they are promising. For example, in Delhi, I mentioned the issue of buses. I also mentioned there has been allegations that both DTC plus the DISCOMs suffer because of the kind of freebies that the Aam Aadmi government has gone for. But the central question I also asked you, Reena, tomorrow if there is a panel, would you be agreeable?
Yes, as a panel we can discuss, but at the end of the day, in a democracy, this has to be decided between the voters and the government they elect. Nobody else has any business to interfere. In fact, what I think is what the Supreme Court should do is it should make the election manifesto a legal document so that people who said 15 lakh वापस आ जाएंगे, 2 crore नौकरी आ जाएंगी, when they're not able to deliver on their promises, they should be held accountable.
Okay, so everything that you announce in election rallies, you are willing to put it in your manifestos, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We put everything in our manifesto. Every year, every election, we come out with what we promised and what we delivered on.
Okay, but would you also then agree to put in a rider of how you will fund it? That's what the plea actually is demanding. You make those promises, but give us some sort of a sense as to the voter how you'll fund that scheme.
Shivani, there are already existing laws in the country of fiscal management laws. There are enough laws in the country which will not allow you, to be fiscally imprudent. And that is the reason why you have bodies like CAG to make sure that governments don't fall into debt trap. They don't overborrow. The only government which is falling into a debt trap is the central government. The government of India is
well, that's not true. Let's not make singularly partisan statement. Let's accept that for many states this is an issue. Shazia Ilmi, please come in, then I'll go across to Karthik. Will you be able to bring in Shazia, will you be able to bring all parties together? Will you consider an all-party meet and bring out some consensus? Because
I heard
otherwise
the most
it cannot
convoluted explanation, and one that really didn't make any sense, which is full of ironies and paradoxes. So by the preceding speaker. So on the one, she says that it should be aimed at everybody because we do not know how to target them. But I don't know. I think she it's the fact that she's living in a country called India, and whether it's the Aadhaar card or and direct benefit schemes have been there. DBT has been there for a while. So those could have been used and are being used, in fact, extensively. That's one. As for promises being part of the election manifesto and becoming a legal document, I think that should really be there, because I think the first party that will have to go, and the most shamefaced appearance will that be of my of the preceding speaker again, because out of 500 colleges, I think not even one new college has come up. Out of new hospitals, not even one new hospital. Out of 2,000 new schools, in the promise of that, just more classrooms, far more expensive classrooms, again costing the exchequer a lot and thereby the taxpayers a lot, but no explanation whatsoever. Again, about electoral literacy and going out. The one thing we did when I was part of Aam Aadmi Party, when we formed the party, I was a co-founder, and before that, part of the Anna Hazare movement, was we wanted to tell the voters, and this was what Arvind Kejriwal stood for along with others, was asking the voters as to what they want. But surely they should know as to what the extra money that will be used from their pockets. Actually, it is not coming as a subsidy with Arvind Kejriwal's photo. That is actually coming from the state exchequer. One.
Everything comes from the state exchequer. Shazia, that's not a debate. Everything comes from the state exchequer, and in a way, citizens are funding everything.
That is the debate. That is the debate.
How should these subsidies be targeted is the question. What is welfare and what is freebie is the question.
No, but because if the state exchequer would continue to be used to subsidize certain political parties' politics, what will happen to the economy? That is the debate.
No,
If you
sure.
follow
But according to you, why is your government schemes welfare?
No, you will
Reena ji, one by one. Reena ji, one by one. Shazia hasn't spoken. Let me give her adequate time.
Nothing is really free.
The question,
No,
obviously
there's no
nothing is
free.
free. The question
Let me
is,
finish.
how
I'm
can
not-
the
let me
BJP
finish.
say that what you do is welfare, but what others are doing is free?
I'll tell you. There's a very clear distinction. When you give 1,000 rupees to every woman in Punjab, as they promised, knowing very well what is the condition of the fiscal debt of Punjab and the distress, financial distress of Punjab, and still promise that, they have not gone to the voters and told them that this is what is the extra cost will cost to each voter, then that is complete travesty and cheating the people and trying to bribe them. And that is indeed a freebie as compared to an Ayushman Bharat, for which there is a budgetary allocation, as opposed to the ration program, for which, because of which 80 crores of Indians have been, have been able to get 2 square meals a day, despite the epidemic and the unemployment that ensued. So those are budgetary allocations.
Okay.
Those are prudent policies.
But why did the
ensure and
BJP
allow-
then ape some of the promises that the Aam Aadmi Party made in elections? Why did you ape them? Shazia? Shazia Ilmi, can you hear me? Okay. Karthik, I'll come to you. What is the best way to solve this? Because political parties have their own vested interest to not really come to even on a table. Sorry, Kishore. They have their vested interest to not even come to a table. I don't think they'll see eye to eye on this. There's too much riding as far as elections are concerned. What is the best way to go for this? Is the panel the best way? Who can mandate some control over this?
Okay, first of all, a lot has been spoken about Tamil Nadu from where I hail.
Yes.
I would very candidly disagree with Mr. Saravanan and the other panelists also from the BJP for a very simple reason that no party in India has any locus standi to speak about freebie. Let me first tell you, right from the central government to the state government, every single government has been following this culture. So let's not eliminate party A and party B. Every single party does it. Now, coming to the point of finances, I'm a financial consultant. I have enough understanding of numbers to speak here. Let me tell you the deteriorating state of the state government's finances. See, as far as the 2003 Fiscal Management and Budget Act, okay, which was supposed to have some controls, there seem to be no controls. And if you look at the last 1 decade or maybe 1.5 decades, the fiscal prudence has only gone down. The graph has been deteriorating. And the expenditure to the revenue receipts has been reducing. States like Punjab have gone to the dogs in terms of the gross debt to the GSDP. And if you look at the debt to the GSDP ratio, there are states which are in a horrible state. And as you mentioned, the power finance companies, the discoms are having a terrible issue.
Yeah.
Now, I would agree on one thing. The Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Mr. M.K. Stalin, did ask the court through the party that can be defined. As one of the panelists, the advocate gentleman did tell that we need to define. But let me tell you, as far as the court is concerned, defining freebie is going to be extremely difficult because everybody, whether it is the right, left, center, everybody is hiding behind some cover.
Right.
And what is more important is here to understand that how do you define freebie as one which is promised before the election? Now, all the panelists here, whether it was BJP, whether it was Mr. Saravanan, were all speaking that there are welfare happening before. Yes, I do agree there are certain welfares happening and it's the government's responsibility to uplift the socially backward people, but not at the cost where your fiscal prudence is going for a 6. Tell me which state can claim that the last 10 years, my fiscal discipline has improved and we are on a northward trajectory in terms of improving.
Okay.
Not a single state.
No,
And
but
what is
Kishore,
happening is
let's come
with
to the-
more and more freebie.
Let's come to the, I think it is quite clear this issue is resonating so much because as you said, we know what has happened in the last 10, 20 years. We know this is becoming a very dangerous trend that is being aped at by everybody. And it almost seems like unless you announce something free, it is becoming really difficult to win elections. So we don't want to go down that path.
I have one more point to make.
No, but can you also, as an expert, point out how do we control this? Who will mandate it?
So before I point out how do we control, I need to point out that as the Aam Aadmi Party representative was saying here, it is between the government and the people. I'm sorry to say it is not between the government and the people. Because people, for example, if in the state I'm living, there are 7 crore people and there are about more than 1 crore people or more than 70 lakh people who are taxpayers.
Right.
You cannot classify everybody and get a mandate on it. Now, let us assume the freebie culture starts at a very nascent point. During the election rally, chicken biryani and alcohol are provided in every damn state. And that's where the freebie culture starts. We need to stop it right from the butt. Now, coming to the point of how do we stop this? Yes, an important neutral panel constituting of honorable judges and people of caliber, people who are absolutely neutral and not related to any party. I'm sure there are enough and more educated heads in this country who are ex-finance heads, who are parties, who are neutral people and not affiliated to the right or the left, and they should form and constitute a panel. Point number 1. If you go to the court, remember, RTI took more than 15 years to get implemented in this country.
Right.
So if you're looking at the courts either taking it suo moto or taking it after a filing of a case is happening, that's going to take a long time.
It is going to take a long time, and I think even political consensus can take a long time. Like I said, there are vested interests here. Everybody has their interests, but we'll wait and see. This hearing is going to be continuing. I look forward to having all of our guests again as we discuss this matter. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Moving